March 4, 1944, 11 a.m., 29,000 feet above the smog-choked spires of Berlin, you are inside the cockpit of a Focke-Wulf 190. The air at this altitude is a lethal -50 degrees, separated from your skin by only a thin pane of plexiglass and a flight suit that smells of stale sweat and high-octane fuel. Below you, the capital of the Third Reich is laid out like a sprawling gray map, supposedly the most defended patch of air on the planet. For 3 years, you've been told this sky was a sanctuary. Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring had famously declared that if a single Allied bomb ever fell on Berlin, his name could be changed to Meyer, a stinging insult to his own prestige. But as you bank your fighter to the west, the sun catches something impossible. At first, it's just a glint, a diamond spark in the thin, frigid blue. You assume it's a twin-engine heavy fighter, perhaps a P-38 Lightning, at the absolute limit of its range, gasping for air and ready to turn back toward England. But as the speck grows, the silhouette sharpens. It's small. It's sleek. It's a single-engine fighter, a P-51 Mustang. Your heart hammers against your ribs. This shouldn't be happening. According to every chart in the Luftwaffe High Command, no Allied fighter has the fuel capacity to reach Berlin, engage in a dogfight, and fly home. It is a mathematical impossibility. Yet, there it is, the little friend, sporting the bright red nose of the 4th Fighter Group, weaving effortlessly through the flak bursts that were meant for the heavy bombers. On the ground, inside the reinforced concrete of the Führer bunker, the atmosphere is thick with the smell of floor wax and desperation. Adolf Hitler is hunched over a map table, his eyes darting across reports of the Eastern Front, when the air raid sirens begin their rhythmic morning wail. This isn't the distant rumble of a night raid. This is high noon. The report reaches the map room with the force of a physical blow. Enemy fighters spotted over the capital. Hitler freezes. He looks at his adjutants, his face a mask of pale fury. He had been told by the experts that the Americans were soft, that their industry was inefficient, and most importantly, that their short-legged fighters could never escort bombers past the German border. The fortress Europe was supposed to have a roof of steel. But as the roar of Merlin engines begins to vibrate through the very soil of Berlin, that roof isn't just leaking, it has collapsed. You can almost feel the shift in the room, the realization that the strategic geometry of the war has just changed forever. The Americans haven't just brought bombs, they've brought the one thing Hitler feared most, a way to kill the Luftwaffe in its own backyard. Above, the Mustang pilots aren't looking to drop payloads, they are looking for you, they are hunting. And for the first time since the war began, the hunters of the Luftwaffe have become the prey over their own homes. The impossible has arrived, and it has silver wings. The roar you hear isn't just an engine, it's a symphony of British elegance and American muscle. To the bomber crews of the 8th Air Force, huddled in their freezing B-17 flying fortresses, that sound is the sweetest music in the world. For months they had been forced to fly, unescorted, into the heart of the Reich, watching their friends spiral into the clouds as the Luftwaffe's Abbeville boys picked them apart with surgical precision. But today, the silence of the high-altitude desert is broken by the guttural rhythmic growl of the Rolls-Royce Merlin. Just a year earlier, the P-51 was a failure. It was an aerodynamic masterpiece with the heart of a tractor. Its original Allison engine gasped for air at high altitudes, making it useless for the thin atmosphere of the European theater. But then came the shotgun wedding of aviation history. North American aviation's airframe met the British Merlin engine. Suddenly, the Mustang didn't just fly, it screamed. But speed wasn't the secret weapon that broke Hitler's heart. It was something far more mundane, something German intelligence had dismissed as a toy, the papier-mâché drop tank. As you watch from your Focke-Wulf, you see the Mustangs do something that defies every rule of engagement you've been taught. They reach into the sky, and with a metallic clank, they jettison their external fuel tanks. These streamlined canisters tumble through the air like silver teardrops, falling toward the German forests below. To the German High Command, those tanks were a death warrant. They realized the Americans hadn't just built a better fighter. They had figured out how to carry enough fuel to fly from London to Berlin, fight for 30 minutes, and fly all the way back. Major General Jimmy Doolittle, the man now leading the 8th Air Force, has just issued a secret 3-word order that changes the nature of the air war. Hunt the Luftwaffe. In the past, Allied escorts were tethered to the bombers, forced to stay close like sheepdogs. No more. Doolittle has unleashed the Mustangs. They are no longer defending, they are clearing the way. You see them peel off from the bomber formations, diving toward the German airfields before your comrades can even get their wheels up. The German pilots, the veterans of Spain, Poland, and France, are suddenly facing a foe that doesn't just match their skill, but mocks their technology. The Me-109 is a scalpel, but the P-51 is a broadsword. It is faster, it dives harder, and it stays in the air longer. In Berlin, the reports are coming in faster than the clerks can process them. It's not just one group of fighters, it's hundreds, then thousands. The sheer industrial weight of the United States is being funneled through the nose of a single-seat fighter. Hitler, staring at the map in his bunker, realizes that his Wunderwaffen, his miracle weapons like the Me-262 jet, are still months away from being ready. He had gambled that the Atlantic Ocean was a wall. He had gambled that American resolve would break under the weight of bomber losses. But as the first P-51 rounds thud into the masonry of the Reichstag, the gamble is officially lost. The Americans have arrived at his front door, and they aren't leaving until the house is burned down. But there is one final desperate hope for the Reich, a weapon so fast and so radical that it might just snatch victory from the jaws of the Mustang. The high-pitched whine of the UMO-04 turbojets should have been the sound of salvation. Adolf Galland, General of Fighters, and the man tasked with defending the Reich's dying gasps, looks out across the tarmac at Rechlin. There, shimmering in the pale sun, sits the Messerschmitt Me-262, the Schwalbe, or Swallow. It is the world's first operational jet fighter, a machine so advanced it makes the P-51 look like a museum piece. It can fly 100 miles per hour faster than anything the Americans have. It carries 4 30mm cannons that can vaporize a flying fortress in a single burst. To Galland, it is a miracle. To Hitler, it is a tool for vengeance. Inside the Wolfschanze, the Wolf's Lair, the Führer rages. He doesn't want a defensive fighter. He doesn't want to save his cities. He wants to burn theirs. He issues a decree that defies military logic. The Me-262, a sleek interceptor built for speed, must be converted into a blitz bomber. This interference is the final nail in the Luftwaffe's coffin. While the German engineers struggle to hang bomb racks on a delicate jet frame, the P-51 Mustangs are turning the German countryside into a graveyard of aluminum. You can almost see the despair in Galland's eyes as he receives the news. Every day the jet is delayed by these modifications is a day the Mustang pilots grow more confident. The Americans have stopped flying in tight defensive boxes. They are now prowling. They have discovered the Me-262's Achilles heel, the takeoff and landing. The Mustang pilots, led by aces like Don Gentile and Kit Carson, aren't waiting for the jets to reach 30,000 feet. They are loitering over the German airfields, circling like vultures. The moment a jet engine flickers to life, the Mustangs dive. The Me-262 is a god in the stratosphere, but it is a sitting duck on the runway. The impossible fighter has met a very simple, very American solution: overwhelming numbers and aggressive persistence. In the skies over Berlin, the big week of February 1944 has already broken the back of the German pilot corps. It's not just the planes that are being lost, it's the men. The veteran Expert 10, pilots with 100 kills or more, are being shot down by 20-year-old boys from Ohio and Texas who have more flight hours in their first month than a German trainee gets in a year. Hermann Göring, The man who promised Berlin would be safe is now a ghost of his former self. He retreats into a haze of morphine and stolen art, refusing to meet the eyes of the young pilots who are being slaughtered. He knows what Hitler only suspects. The Luftwaffe is no longer an air force. It is a target. But the most chilling moment comes when Galland himself takes a Me-262 into the air to see what he is up against. He looks behind him and sees not 2, not 10, but 50 Mustangs. They are everywhere. They are covering the horizon. He realizes that even if he kills 10 of them, there are 1,000 more behind the sun. He lands his jet, shuts down the engines, and sits in the cockpit in total silence. The roof of Europe hasn't just been torn off. The very walls are closing in. And as the sound of the Merlin engines grows louder over the Chancellery, the world is about to witness the final violent transition from a war of conquest to a war of extinction. By April 1945, the sky over Germany is no longer a battlefield. It is an Allied thoroughfare. Albert Speer, Hitler's Minister of Armaments and the man responsible for keeping the Reich's heart beating, stands on the balcony of a darkened office in Berlin. He looks up, not for the Luftwaffe, but for the inevitable. The air is thick with the scent of pulverized masonry and charred timber. Then he hears it, a low, persistent hum that vibrates in the fillings of his teeth. It isn't a raid, it's a patrol. High above, a flight of P-51 Mustangs circles the city with an arrogance that is almost quiet. They aren't dodging flak because there are no gunners left to fire it. They aren't looking for Messerschmitts because there is no fuel left to fly them. These pilots, some of them barely old enough to shave, are the absolute masters of the German sky. Speer would later write in his memoirs that the appearance of the long-range fighter was the precise moment he knew the war was lost. Not the T-34s at the gates of Berlin and not the landings at Normandy, but the silver planes that stayed. The P-51 had done more than just shoot down planes, it had strangled the German economy. With the Luftwaffe cleared from the sky, the American heavies, the B-17s and B-24s, were free to dismantle the Reich's synthetic oil plants with surgical precision. Without oil, the Tiger tanks at the front became stationary steel coffins. Without oil, the Me-262s remained glued to the runways. The Mustang was the key that unlocked the door to the total destruction of the German war machine. Inside the bunker, the atmosphere has shifted from defiant rage to a hollow, morbid acceptance. Hitler, now a shadow of the man who conquered Paris, listens to the muffled thud-thud-thud of Mustang strafing runs on the Tiergarten above. He is told that the Allied pilots are so unchallenged that they are now hunting individual trucks, individual staff cars, and even individual soldiers on bicycles. The fortress Europe has no roof, no walls, and no floor. The realization is final. The Reich didn't just lose a war of soldiers, it lost a war of horizons. The Mustang had expanded the battlefield to a distance the German mind couldn't comprehend. It had turned the 600 miles between London and Berlin into a local neighborhood. As the final Soviet shells begin to fall on the Chancellery, the silver wings above provide the punctuation mark to a 12-year nightmare. The P-51 Mustang earned its title as the Cadillac of the skies, but to the men in the bunker, it was something far more biblical. It was the instrument of a mechanical judgment. The Luftwaffe, once the terror of Guernica and London, had been swept into the ash heap of history by a plane that couldn't be built, carrying fuel that couldn't be carried, flown by a nation Hitler had dismissed as weak. As the sun sets over the ruins of the Brandenburg Gate, the last thing many German soldiers see isn't the red flag of the East, but the glint of a silver wing high in the darkening blue. The hunter had become the master. The sky was silent, and the war was over.